Hey guys, as some of you know, my grandfather passed away last week, and so I've put together this little routine as sort of my tribute to him, as I'm not really good at anything else when it comes to this sort of thing. So here it is. Now with with anyone we know in our lives, there's always two things. There's the personal experiences that we have with that person ourselves, and then there are the stories that we hear from that person or from other people. And it's these two things, when put together, that make up everybody we know in our lives. And obviously some people we know more than others. Family you tend to know pretty well. And so it's from both of these that I hope to pluck out a couple of good stories during this routine, and maybe a few others depending on what I can think of as I'm going along. So yeah, like I said, we'll use the king to represent my grandfather, who for some reason we actually always called Poppa, and I've never thought to ask why we actually called him this name. It might have been me because I'm the eldest grandchild. Maybe I came up with it and then it just stuck, or maybe it was a name thought of by someone else. I genuinely really don't know, but maybe that's something for me to find out later. Anyway, some things about Poppa. He was born way back in 1921, and during World War II he was a medical student, during which he met my grandmother, I suppose you could call her. Grandmother here, represented by Queen Spades, and switch them over. And then one day 60 years ago, they were married for 60 years, I think that's amazing. One day, 60 years ago, they got married and became Mr. and Mrs. Radway, just like that. And then together they had 2 kids, as you can see there, right there, so you can see. 2 kids, a boy and a girl, who of course grew up to become my dad and my aunt, both of whom got married themselves, and between the two of them had 4 grandkids. The first of whom was me, I'm the eldest, and then after me came my sister, and then after my sister came my cousin Matthew, and then finally came my little cousin Alice. Alice I will always remember as a baby, because once when she was a baby she threw up right on me, and that's generally not something that you forget, but that's another story for another time. So, like I said, my grandmother was a nurse, and my grandfather during the war, like I said, was a medical student, and then he joined the army as a doctor. And I remember he told me once, I found this extraordinary, he told me that way back then, when he was in the army, they didn't just get paid with money, as you would expect, but because they didn't know how harmful and everything it could be, they also apparently got paid in cigarettes, which I find extraordinary, because you'd never get that these days, obviously, with all the health warnings, but of course they didn't have all those back then. So yeah, part of their pay came in the form of tobacco, which like I said, I found really bizarre, but to be honest I'd rather have the money, being a non-smoker, but I'm sure some people would disagree with me. And I've always admired that he was a doctor in the army, because of course when you think of the army you think of war, especially with World War II and all that sort of thing. And war, it's all sort of about people having their families quite literally torn apart, you know, especially with World War II. If you think about the millions of people who died during that. And so I always admired the fact that he was one of the people in the army whose job wasn't to try and end lives, if you like. Just move that up there. You know, it was his job was to take in people who had been broken and literally just put them back together, just like that. You know, I always thought that was a pretty cool thing to do. And I just want to share one story with you. I don't want this to go on for too long, but it's a story concerning me, and it makes me look quite silly, but it was during it was when we went to stay over at my grandparents' house for Christmas one year. I think would have been around 1990 or 1991. So you know, I was pretty small at the time. You know, I was only sort of 5-6 years old from what I can remember. So probably about that big compared to the adults. And I can remember walking into the house and obviously saying hello to everybody first, and then I went straight up to Poppa, and I pretended to be all big and adult, and I just went up to him and I said, "So, Poppa, have you been making extra room at the chimney to allow Santa Claus to come down the chimney? Have you been making extra space?" And I was serious, you know, I was really hoping they had been, and he just gave me this massive smile, and he just said, "Yes, of course we have, you know, why wouldn't we be doing that? We don't want to give him any trouble." And you know, of course, now that I'm older, I can just I almost cringe with how embarrassing I must have been causing myself. But you know, of course he didn't show it. He just gave me a massive smile, and although I'm sure inside he must have been laughing at me because I would have done the same. But like I said, he didn't show it, and that's the thing I liked about my grandfather. You know, he was always smiling, and he was just always happy, and you know, he was just always happy to be around. That's why I loved showing him magic on the times that I did, because he would always watch the trick and he'd smile and he'd say, "Oh, that was magnificent, it's absolutely wonderful, I love this." And that's why I always enjoyed showing him magic so much. But now of course it's a little bit late for that, and I'm not going to be able to show him anymore, which I guess is one thing that I'll miss, because like I said, I always enjoyed showing him magic so much. But now there's nothing else I can do, and next Monday we say goodbye, sorry, next Tuesday, and that'll be it. And even though he's gone now, I just hope that things like this little routine that I've put together, and other things as well, will mean that even though he's now no longer here, but I just hope that things like this just mean that I'll just be able to remember him just for that little bit longer. So yeah, that's my routine.